And thank you for joining today's Fit for Learning webinar. Today's webinar is going to focus on topics that we get a lot of questions about. So our goal is to arm you with information needed to answer questions regarding debt and consolidation based on your individual situation. My name is Michelle Miller. I am the Sales and Marketing Director for Financial Fitness for Life. Joining me today are two of our financial fitness consultants, Christine Nikkinen and John Poole. Our webinar is going to start off discussing consolidating assets. So what does it mean to consolidate assets and how does that work? Why should I consider consolidating my assets? What are the risks and drawbacks? Should I roll my 401k into my new employer's plan? Should I roll it into an IRA? Then we're going to move on into paying down debt and sharing some insights that can help you answer how to determine which debt reduction strategy is right for you. Does it even make sense to use a 401k loan to pay off some of that debt? And should I prioritize saving or paying off debt? Do you need a combination of both? So we're going to kick things off by talking about consolidating assets. Christine, what does it mean to consolidate assets and how does that work?
Well, thanks, Michelle, and thanks for everyone who's joining us today. So consolidating assets refers to the process of combining your various financial holdings, whether that be bank accounts, retirement accounts, investment accounts, even some real estate, and reducing those into a smaller number of accounts. And I have met with people who have just continued to add accounts. So for example, I met with somebody who had a side hustle of an Uber account. And so they opened an Uber checking account, and then they had their savings account, and they had a joint account, and then they also had some accounts for children. And so they had all of these different bank accounts, and they were getting multiple statements, and that can be a pain. And the individual wasn't doing Uber anymore. So we talked about, why do you still have this checking account for that? So it's really a way of combining all your assets into fewer accounts. And the goal is to really simplify your financials. So how you do that is you need to first take inventory. You know, where are your checking accounts? Did you open them with multiple banks because maybe you were trying to get a loan at one bank, but you never closed it? Where are your investment accounts? I knew an individual who worked for a company that brought up a brokerage account, and they made him open a brokerage account that he only kept a small amount in, and it's like, but then he's no longer working there. So think about, where are your accounts? Why do you still have them? Again, what we want to do is try to simplify your financial life. And so define your goals. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to just make this whole thing simpler? Are you trying to come up with an overall investment strategy? And think about, you know, your risk tolerance, your preferences. Are there any kind of constraints? You know, you need to have access to cash machines, or maybe an account you're in only allows you to do transactions twice a month, a savings account. So kind of think about those constraints and how those are going to fit into your lifestyle. And then I think it's important to research where you want to be. You know, oftentimes by combining your assets with one bank or one financial institution or one brokerage firm, there can be some advantages. So you want to research who has the best customer service, who has the type of products that you're looking for. And then you've got to develop the plan and specify, thinking about, what do I need? What do I need to combine? And then finally execute that plan. Now, I've got it all outlined here, but it can be difficult to move money from one account to another, and you may want to engage an advisor to help you with that.
Christine, when you're making that decision to consolidate, what are some of the considerations that you should be mindful of? And then what are some of the risks and drawbacks?
So the things that are positive about combining the accounts is really just ease of account management. I don't know if you're somebody that once a month or once a quarter gets all these statements from your bank or from a retirement account, and you've got all these different statements coming in. it's hard to manage that and look at what's happening with all of them. So by combining and reducing from multiple accounts to maybe just a couple, it can make it much easier to manage. In addition, there may be some cost reductions. Oftentimes, places may look at you with a bigger account balance and they may offer you some special pricing. Or at a bank, maybe they have available to you, because of the amount of assets you have, a better interest rate on your investments. And then it just makes everything more controllable. Now, a couple things to maybe think about is, are there going to be any potential tax implications? Maybe you've got money with several different brokerage firms. Maybe you've got some money out of Vanguard or some money out of Fidelity, and you want to move those dollars. Can you move those dollars in kind, or are you going to have to sell and then move those dollars? And if you're having to sell, are these in an after-tax account that's going to require you to then take some capital gains because you've sold that investment? So you need to kind of look at, well, what's those tax implications? I also want you to look at, maybe there's some special feature that your bank offers that if you combined your assets and took it to a different financial institution that maybe the majority of your assets are at, that you would lose that feature. So look at that. Also look at diversification. If you combine your accounts, are you going to be less diversified? And then look at cost. Cost is always a big feature.
So one of the most frequently asked questions we get from people regarding their employer-sponsored retirement plan, or is regarding their employer-sponsored retirement plan. For people that have an old 401k from a prior employer, should they roll that into a new employer's plan or consider rolling it into an IRA?
Michelle, that is probably the number one question I get when we talk about consolidating assets with individuals. And that's probably where most people have the majority of a variety of accounts. So on average, an individual will work for 7 different companies over their career. And if you can think about having 7 different 401ks with 7 different employers and then hitting 65 and wanting to figure out where their money is, it can be really complicated. So I really think that combining those dollars makes a lot of sense. It makes, again, as some of the pros, it makes it more visible and easier to control. Now that question about, well, do I put it in my new employer's plan or should I roll it into an IRA, is a lot of it just depends. Now keep in mind, you can leave your existing 401k with your previous employer if your account balance is over $5,000. Now that amount is going to be going up to $7,000. So think about, well, it's my account over $7,000. Under that, your employer can force you out of the plan. They don't want to keep track of employees that are no longer there. So the first thing is, well, does my previous employer offer some advantages to keep my money there? Maybe you hold company stock that if you move that money, you wouldn't have that feature available. So maybe you want to leave your money there. But again, it's a matter of, am I having multiple retirement accounts? Now, do you put it into your employer's plan? A couple things to think about is, does that new employer, what are the fees associated with it? What are my investment choices? Do those investment choices look good to me? And oftentimes your employer's plan is going to be cheaper than if you were trying to put it into an individual retirement account. Kind of look at it as buying retail and buying wholesale. Your IRA is retail, whereas you've got the buying power of your whole company, so those fees might be cheaper. Now, the other thing that you might want to say is, well, here's my employer's plan, but I really liked XYZ investment, and that's not in my plan. Well, if that's the case, then an individual retirement account can make more sense for you. So it really depends on what you're looking for, and there's not one right answer for everyone. And this is a great question for any of the financial consultants, can help you figure out which way to go. And rolling those monies, they have not made it an easy process, and we can help you roll those dollars to wherever you'd like it to go.
Christine, you mentioned a financial consultant can help you. Side note, if anyone on the call has additional questions, don't worry, we are here to help. If you hang on until the end of this webinar, I will share with you information on how to get in touch with one of our consultants like John and Christine that can help you with any follow-up questions you may have. But for now, we are going to move on to the topic of debt. For those of you who attended February's Fit for Learning, we talked about debt reduction strategies. We will include into that webinar in our follow-up email. So if you'd like to go back and hear those strategies again, or if you missed that webinar, we'll make sure we get that in front of you. John, I want to turn to you. Regarding those debt strategies we previously discussed, how does one determine which strategy is right for them? Can you hear me, John? Okay, John, I think we lost your audio. Christine, can I bounce back to you? Are you able to help?
Yep. So John, were you unmuted or you lost audio?
I think he's losing audio.
I'll take these questions. So you've got to figure out what your priority is when you're trying to figure out debt consolidation. And like everything, there's not just one right answer. Are you looking to reduce the number of debts that you have, or are you looking to save money on interest payments? Now, if you're looking to save money on interest payments, you've got to understand interest rates, and you've got to look at all your debt and think about, well, if this is my highest debt, you know, maybe you've got a credit card that is charging you 20% and your car loan is only at 5%, and you want to reduce that credit card debt. Look at paying off, make sure you're paying the minimums on everything, and then any extra money you would have, throw it towards that higher interest rate to reduce that. If, however, you've got 15 different credit cards, car loans, different loans, and you just want to consolidate that, just like your bank accounts, you want to kind of reduce that, you might want to think about, well, let's pay off that smallest balance first. Again, make sure you're paying the minimum on everything every month, but then throw more that extra money to that smaller one. This approach gives you a little more confidence. You've reduced one of your accounts. Maybe you had 15, now you're going to go to 14.
So let's take a moment and jump back to employer-sponsored retirement plans for a moment. Does it ever make sense to use a 401k loan to pay off your debt?
In general, I would say no. What we see a lot of times is that people will run up their credit card debt. They'll then take out a 401k loan to pay it off. But then instead of not using that credit card debt, they go back and they go back and charge up those cards again. So a lot of times I feel like using their 401k is maybe not the best option. In addition, a lot of times what I see when people are using their 401k loan is they'll stop contributing to their 401k because now they're having to make that loan payment. And if your employer is matching that money, not only are you impacting your future retirement, but you're not getting those matching dollars. Now, there are times to use your 401k loan if in some pretty difficult situations that maybe you have high medical bills or something's unexpected and you've got to pay off that it could make sense. You know, your 401k, it's pretty easy to get that money. There's no credit checks. Generally, the interest rate is going to be the rate that's prevailing in the market, so it can be lower definitely than what you pay on a credit card. Approval process is easy, and you do pay yourself back the interest. But I caution people of using their 401k. Don't look at their 401k loan as kind of their holiday shopping account. Gee, I'm going to take money out, or look at it as their new car account. Really think about, why am I taking out that loan? Because again, some of the negatives are you could potentially, if you had to cut back on what you were contributing, you are impacting your future retirement. You might be missing out on a match. You don't have that potential growth. There is the repayment obligation. So a lot of people don't realize that maybe you took a 5-year loan out with your 401k, you've paid about a year of it, and then you get laid off, or maybe you change jobs. Well, that loan becomes immediately due to you. And then if you're younger than 59 and a half, you have to show that you'll have to show that money that's still left on your loan if you can't pay it off on your taxes. And then again, if you're younger than 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. So, think about those obligations and how you can pay that back. And again, as I said, a lot of times people will use it to pay off credit cards, but then they'll go back and increase their credit card debt. So it's just cyclical. I would encourage people to kind of look at their 401k loan as kind of a last resort.
Really good points, Christine. And the last question that I'm going to get your expertise on is, should you prioritize saving or paying off that debt? Or do you do a combination of both?
So is John available? I hate to leave my colleague John out because he always has such good words, but I'm not sure if he's back and has. I don't think he has audio. Okay.
Can't hear him.
All right. Well, he's here in spirits, John. I'll take that question. So I, in general, think you need to do a combination of both because, again, I can't emphasize enough that if your employer offers a match, you want to make sure that you're getting that free money. So try and do a combination. Can I put what I need to put in my 401k to take advantage of that match? Maybe your employer's matching on the first 3%. Can you put 3% in so that you get that match and then work on paying off that debt? Now, if you can't, can you put maybe 2% in and take that other percent and use it to pay off debt? I then recommend if you were cutting back on your 401k or your retirement contributions so that you could make those debt payments, once those debts are paid off, can you go back in and increase? Now, you're not going to be able to increase and get past matching dollars that have already gone by, but get them going forward. So, again, every person's situation is different, but I do think probably the best approach is a combination.
Excellent, Christine. Thank you so much for all of that advice. Like most everything related to your financial situation, these decisions about consolidating assets and paying down debt should be personalized to your circumstances. So here are 2 action steps that you can take, followed by questions that you should answer. So number 1, take a full inventory of your assets and consider consolidation options. So what are your specific goals and how can consolidation help you achieve those goals? Are you aware of all the steps that should be taken once you've identified your consolidation method? And have you identified any of those penalties that could result from a transfer of assets? Number 2, review your current debt and develop your repayment strategy. What are your top priorities and which approach is going to help you the most? Have you considered using debt consolidation as part of that strategy? And as you begin to reduce your debt, what are you doing with that extra cash flow? So as promised earlier, I'm going to send this in the chat box. We are here to help you. So any way that we can, simply scan this QR code and find a date and time that works well for you and discuss any questions with one of our consultants. You can click on that link that I sent over in the chat window as well. If you have an old 401k or retirement accounts that you're looking to consolidate, let us walk you through different options. If you're having some debt and still aren't sure how to get it paid off, let us help you pinpoint, get you in the right direction there. And if there are any other topics that you'd like to discuss, we're more than happy to help you with those as well. If you haven't already done so, register for July Fits for Learning's webinar. You can scan that QR code and get registered. We will be discussing credit scores along with some tips on how to improve those. And finally, we will be sending out an email, again, as promised earlier, with a recording of today's presentation, along with a link to that February webinar to revisit those debt strategies if you want to get caught up on those. Christine and John, thank you for your expertise today, especially you, John. Thank you all for attending today and taking the time out of your day to be here. We look forward to you and helping in any way that we can in your financial wellness journey. Have a great day. And we're out. Okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
Christine, thank you. Sorry,
Didn't
John.
have as great stories as John probably would have, but
Oh, John.
all right.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.